A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
The country incurred a loss of 710 million rupees through the coal transaction, a revelation by Anti-Corruption Front. Sergeant Major attached to military intelligence in connection with the assassination of Lasantha Wickrematunge to be produced for an identification parade on the 27th. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe commences a 3-day official tour to Singapore. 6,000 people detained in Turkey over failed coup. 2,700 judges sacked.
Let's take a look at the stories in detail now. At a media briefing held in Colombo today, the Anti-Corruption Front unveiled that the country had incurred a loss of $4.88 million or more than 710 million rupees as a result of the controversial coal deal.
Coal has been purchased on 5 occasions since the Norchole power plant commenced operations. The procurement procedure was handled by the Standing Cabinet-appointed Committee on Procurement and a Technical Evaluation Committee. The Procurement Committee comprises of 5 members, including the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Employment, G.S. Vithanage, and the Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy, Suren Batagoda. The first tender to purchase coal was called on the 8th of January 2009. The tender was cancelled on the grounds that there was only one supplier and that the price was too high. Tenders were called again on the 27th of July 2009 and 2 of the 12 companies which submitted bids were considered. Eventually, it was decided to purchase coal from Noble Resources Limited, the second lowest bidder. When tenders were called again on the 21st of May 2013, the Procurement Committee recommended to Cabinet that coal be purchased from either Liberty Commodities Limited or Uttam Galva Steels Limited. An appeal submitted by Torian Iron and Steel Limited was also accepted and submitted to the Cabinet. Nevertheless, once again the tender was granted to Noble Resources Limited. Incidentally, in this case too, Noble Resources was not the lowest bidder. Tenders to supply coal were called again on the 18th of June 2014. In this instance, a recommendation was made to the Cabinet to cancel and recall tenders. Then Subject Minister Patali Champika Ranawaka addressed a letter to the President and noted that all previous tenders had been cancelled with the intervention of President Mahinda Rajapaksa and that the contract was granted to the company recommended by him.
Torian කියන්නේ Mahinda Rajapaksa මහත්තයාගේ පුංචි පුතා.
Torian is the company that sent a satellite to space with Mahinda Rajapaksa's younger son. The identity of the person behind securing coal from Noble Resources is a secret known to everyone. Officially, there was a certain company and several individuals. In addition, there was another individual. There was also a powerful daughter from a certain family behind this procedure. At the same time, certain media institutions slinging mud at us today also made money to run their media through coal. Let us look into whether this tender procedure was used to raise funds for Rivira and the CSN channel.
ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණාද නැද්ද කියන එක පිළිබඳව ඒක හරහා සොයා බලමු.
නුරචොල ඉස්ලාම ඉදි කරනකොට $1 million.
When the Norachole plant was constructed, a sum of $1.5 million was paid as charges of the Sri Lankan agent by the company which undertook construction. The evidence is in writing. When the coal was being purchased, the ports minister at the time, Chamal Rajapaksa, brought this under the Lanka Shipping Corporation. It is clear that some deals were struck here. The majority of the coal was brought down by the agents in Sri Lanka, a daughter of Rajapaksa's sister. The money raised through this process was key in forming the CSN channel. This was such a powerful issue that it led to ministers being removed from their positions.
තරම් බලවත්ද කියලා කිව්වොත් අමාත්‍යවරුන් ඒ තනතුරු වලින් ඉවත් කරන්නට පවා හේතුයි.
When the 5th tender was called, Minister Patali Champika Ranawaka had recommended to the President that a spot tender procedure be used instead of the corrupt procurement process. While the Procurement Committee had decided on the bid made by Noble Resources Limited, the company Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Limited had requested that the tender conditions be amended. The Procurement Committee changed the conditions accordingly and Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises Limited won the tender. As such, 1.0647 million metric tons of coal were purchased from Swiss Singapore Overseas Enterprises at a cost of $54.40 per metric ton. A sum of $57.93 million was spent on the procurement. The quantity of coal purchased through the spot tender system introduced by Minister Patali Champika Ranawaka during this time frame amounts to 1.125 million metric tons. The coal was purchased at a cost of $49.83 per metric ton, with a total expenditure of $56.08 million. Accordingly, the Ministry of Power and Energy spent a sum of $114.008 million in this time frame to purchase 2.9 million metric tons of coal. However, if the coal had been purchased under the spot tender system at a cost of $49.83 per metric ton, the expenditure would only have been $109.12 million. The Anti-Corruption Front pointed out at a media briefing held today that the country had lost an opportunity to save $4.88 million as a result of this deal.
බලහා බලශක්ති අමාත්‍යාංශය අපිට ආරාධනා කරා සාකච්ඡාව. මේ සාකච්ඡාවට ගියායින් පස්සේ අපිට කරුණු
The Ministry of Power and Energy invited us for talks, and we attended these talks. The Secretary and the General Manager of the Electricity Board, that is the General Manager, and Suren Batagoda are two of the 5 officials against whom allegations have been made via the Supreme Court's order. When we went to the ministry, the situation we were faced with was like asking the thieves for the story. They made a presentation to us with 26 slides. The 2 people who failed to answer to the country when the Auditor General highlighted a misappropriation amounting to 1.8 million rupees are now trying to tell us that this deal was profitable. The profit according to them is $342,833.4. We are prepared to speak even only on the basis of slides number 25 and 26. If the spot tender was followed instead of purchasing from the Swiss company, if it was purchased at $49.83 instead of buying it at $54.40, then a sum of $4.88 million could have been saved.
4.40ට ගන්නේ නැතුව 49 සත 83ට ගත්තා නම් ඉතිරි වෙන මුදල ඩොලර් මිලියන 4.8යි.
When Noble Resources Limited filed a petition with the Supreme Court, the bench noted that the actions of the Standing Cabinet-appointed Procurement Committee had shocked the conscience of the court. While the Auditor General has made 2 audit queries into this corrupt deal on 2 prior occasions, the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy is yet to respond.
බටකොඩ මහත්තයා අඩුම ගානේ ඇමතිවරයාටත්
At the very least, Batagoda has not even informed the Minister, the Deputy Minister or the parliamentarians until recently that an audit query was made on the 19th of January. If they had responded to the first audit query accordingly, then a large sum of money could have been saved for the country. Secondly, it is possible that this order would not have been made by the Supreme Court. Batagoda is unable to respond to the audit query. The reason behind this is that Lanka Coal Company and many engineers at the Electricity Board maintain that there has been fraud in this deal.
මේ ගනුදෙනුවෙන් වංචාවක් සිදු වෙලා තිබෙනවා. විගණනාධිපති වාර්තාවට පිළිතුරු සැපයීම හිතාමතා මගහැරලා තියෙනවා.
They have deliberately refrained from responding to the Auditor General, and this by itself is enough to indicate that there has been some underhand activity here. These ministers and officials have forgotten that the people gave a mandate to work against fraud and corruption. We clearly know that while a political revolution occurred on the 8th of January, these officials are continuing with their well-planned scams as usual. These have not stopped. It appears to us that the ministers in the current good governance regime are even more supportive of these activities than the ministers in Mahinda Rajapaksa's regime.
පක්ෂ රජයේ ඇමතිවරුන්ට වඩා හොඳින් ලබා දෙන බව තමයි අපිට මේ කාරණාවලින් පැහැදිලි වෙන්නේ.
When Newsfirst made inquiries regarding the coal deal, the Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Energy, Suren Batagoda, noted that the subject minister would be making a special statement in Parliament on this matter next week. He added that he would not comment on the matter until then.
Welcome back here with News First. At a media briefing held today, JVP leader Anura Kumar Dissanayake accused the government of attempting to suppress the coal deal using committees.
The decision of the current Ranil Maitri coalition is to appoint a committee when such accusations arise. In a similar fashion, we remember that during the central bank scam as well, Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed a committee with 3 lawyers. Incidentally, one of the lawyers works at Sirikota. He is the person who certifies the nomination forms. Then too, a committee loyal to them was appointed, and they attempted to put out a report covering up that deal. Now a controversy has arisen regarding the coal deal. They are following the same strategy they used in the issue of the bond transaction. They are attempting to use the same people involved in that transaction to form a committee and submit a report acquitting themselves. So when you consider the policy of Mahinda Rajapaksa's regime and the current Maitri Ranil policy, it is the same. But they use 2 different strategies to implement their policies. He used to take the files and hide them. In the end, he said that he had all the files. This person forms committees and obtains reports acquitting himself. Both these groups are trying to cover up their fraud and corruption. There is the COPE committee in Parliament.
අරයා ෆයිල් එක අරගෙන විල හංගගෙන ඡන්ද වේදිකාව කියන මංගාව ෆයිල් තියනවා කියලා මෙයා කමිටු දාලා වාර්තාවෙන් නිර්දෝෂී වුණා කියලා නිර්දෝෂී කරනවා. ඒ නිසා මේ කණ්ඩායම් දෙකීම උවමනාව තමයි තමන් විසින් කරන ලද වංචා දූෂණ වසා ගැනීම සඳහා දරන ප්‍රයත්නය. විශේෂයෙන් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කෝප් සභාව තිබෙනවා. ඒ විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය කැදවීමේ හැකියාව තිබෙනවා.
කෝප් සභාවෙන් දඩුවම් කරන්න බෑ නිර්දේශයක් ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම විතරයි කරන්න පුළුවන්.
ඔව් ඒ කියන්නේ කෝප් සභාවට කැදවී තිබෙන්නේ.
The COPE committee's task is to present a report to Parliament regarding what has transpired. Then it goes to the cabinet and there are people in that cabinet too.
ප්‍රශ්නේ ඒකම තමයි.
Speaking at a public rally held in Panadura today, MP Rohita Begunwardena proposed that the FCID conduct investigations into the dealings with the current government as well.
The mega deal is being uncovered now. The largest mega deal in the history of Sri Lanka, the coal deal, is being uncovered now. The mega deal, which was struck under the cover of the white robe of the 100-day government of good governance, casting aside cabinet papers, is now coming to light. The Supreme Court has given an interpretation noting that the scale of this is unforeseen. By the gods, when the Supreme Court makes such a statement, what should be done? Where is the FCID? Just like they grabbed Namal by the neck, shouldn't they also grab the minister who presented the cabinet paper for everyone to see? Shouldn't they arrest him immediately and produce him in court? No, they have appointed a committee. Even for the central bank scam, they appointed a committee. As mega deals happen before their eyes, they appoint committees. There is no talk about it.
Where is the root of the controversial coal deal? Minister S. Sanaka expressed his views in this regard while speaking in Agunukula Palace yesterday.
This issue surrounding coal will not spring up on the current government, but on the former government. This is an issue which has been stemming since the previous government. But I think that such issues can be settled under this culture of good governance by curtailing fraud and corruption in the form of strengthening laws on these matters and informing the general public through things like the right to information. These procedures will continue. Yes, the previous government swindled. Well, myself, those who were in that government, and even the president were in that government. But regardless, the country must be built in a manner which state officials, politicians and businessmen cannot swindle money like this. Laws must be tightened. The people must be kept informed. So the judiciary and the police must be kept prepared and independent for these purposes, and this has been done.
Speaking in Bingiriya today, Minister Dayasri Jayasekara said that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will take a stance on the value-added tax amendment bill in a few days' time.
When taking this VAT issue into consideration, you and I all have various problems about it. But there is something we should all know. When we make an income of 100 rupees, we have to incur a cost of 113 rupees from Sri Lanka's total expense. Our income is insufficient to make expenses. We pay 80% in loans and installments and carry out development activities with the remaining 20%. However, if taxes are being increased to scrounge off the people saying that it would increase our income, then we are against that. So we brought forward a proposal regarding the VAT that it should be formulated in a concessionary system. We have a bit more to clean up. We will discuss these matters when the President returns and decide if we will vote in favour or not for the parliamentary proposal on value-added tax.
Don't turn your back on them when you know the hardships they go through. Think for a moment. A drop of clean water will be a lifesaver for them.
කිලෝමීටර 6ක් 7ක් යන්න ඕනි වතුර ටික ගේන්න. අපිට ෆිල්ටර් එකක් දාලා වතුර ටිකක් ලබා දෙනවා නම් තමයි මේ වටින්නේ බුදු වෙනවා මේ වතුර ටිකක් දෙන මිනිස්සයා.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone.
Now, as the date for the launch of the Gum at the 100-day initiative looms closer, contributions have been pouring in by donors. The initiative has already received financial assistance enough to complete several projects.
The Gum at the 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Construction on the first 3 projects of the Gum at the 100-day initiative will commence on the 20th of July. Ever since the announcement for the initiative was made, people have come forward in person as well as in groups to assist this endeavour. Certain organisations have also come forward with financial support for several projects identified through the initiative. Many donors who have voluntarily agreed to assist in projects to provide better facilities for the people have deposited their financial donations to our bank accounts. These financial aid will be utilised to construct roads, community halls, houses, tanks, drinking water as well as sanitary facilities. Many in Sri Lanka as well as those based overseas have come forward to donate and assist in several projects to provide the facility of clean drinking water for the sole purpose of eradicating a chronic kidney disease which is widespread in several villages including Vilgamur, which was uncovered during the Gum at the journey. We are currently in the process of finalizing the financial estimates, planning the dates to commence the projects and making arrangements for the basic raw materials and other requirements. For those who still wish to donate and contribute to projects which will benefit those in need, the Gum at the Secretariat is in operation 24 hours a day for any information on how you could assist. We extend our sincere gratitude to all donors who have supported and encouraged us to launch the Gum at the 100-day initiative with the people and for the people.
The Gum at the 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Leader of the Janasita Peramuna, Venerable Battaramulle Silaratanathera, met and held discussions with locals in the 101 garden in Mitotamulla this morning.
Some houses do not have the facility of toilets and other basic sanitary facilities. They have no way of building a house. They have no water, no well to survive. All of these things are being exposed to the Gum at the program, but the government did not act upon it. So I take this as an opportunity to call everyone to put aside your caste and religion to help and donate to the Sirasa Gum at the program at least by ₹1. Programs which the government cannot undertake is being initiated across the country by the Sirasa Media Network. Therefore, I kindly request all the Buddhists and non-Buddhists to support the Sirasa Gum at the program.
A Sri Lankan delegation led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has arrived in Singapore on a 3-day official visit. This is the Prime Minister's first official visit to Singapore since assuming office in January last year. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe was welcomed at the Changi International Airport by Singapore's Minister of State for the Ministry of Communications and Information and Minister of Education Janil Puducherry. The Prime Minister will hold bilateral talks with his counterpart Lee Hsien Loong and President of Singapore Tony Tan tomorrow. Several bilateral agreements will be signed during the visit. Wickremesinghe will also address the South Asian Diaspora Conference. A sergeant major attached to the Directorate of the Military Intelligence who was arrested yesterday in connection with the 2009 assassination of senior journalist Lasantha Wickremesinghe has been remanded until the 27th of July.
The Sergeant Major attached to the Directorate of Military Intelligence, who is accused of abducting the driver of the vehicle carrying Lasantha Wickremesinghe when he was assassinated, was produced before the Mount Levina magistrate Mohammed Shabdin once again this afternoon. The magistrate ordered that the suspect be remanded until the 27th of July when he will be presented in an identification parade.
The JVP criticized the opposition's National Force initiative at a media briefing held today.
Before creating a national force, Basil Rajapaksa should find out what his nationality is. When we search for Basil Rajapaksa online, Wikipedia says that Basil Rajapaksa's nationality is Sri Lankan American. Basil Rajapaksa cannot leave the country because his passport is in custody. What can he do now? He should do something while he can. He might leave the country even tomorrow if his passport is returned. Not only that, what power does Basil Rajapaksa have to build national movements? 61 Navy personnel were appointed back then to take care of the dogs, to serve food, to clear off cobwebs and to pin Pushpa's saris. All 61 officers were paid by the Sri Lankan Navy. Not just that, 2 more officers were sent to America to guard Basil Rajapaksa's house in America. Is this what you call national forces? These are not national forces. The movements are created as curtains to cover the robbery, wastage and the privileges they lost. The citizens of this country must not in any way get caught to these deceitful movements.
Minister of Housing and Construction Sajid Premdasa laid the foundation stone for the construction of the 43rd model village in the Hambantota district today.
The model village, which is being constructed in the Lunugamwehara area, will consist of 75 houses. At the event, Minister Premdasa presented concessionary housing loans and land deeds to its owners. It is quite easy to hand out temporary relief. They can design any kind of stamp and provide this every month. When this is done, you become slaves of the government. Your everyday life will be based on that relief you receive. We will provide our people with capital resources, an asset they never had. We will carry out programs like this throughout the country.
The Jaffna University has issued a statement expressing regret in the conflict that occurred during a ceremony held to welcome newly admitted students to the university. The statement notes that while the issue was resolved within an hour, all students were safely returned to their homes. The university administration noted that the university, including the Vavuniya campus, will be closed until further notice and that steps will be taken to swiftly recommence academic activities. A group of missing hikers, including 2 foreigners who went missing while trekking in the 7 Virgin Hills in Norton Bridge, Hatton, were rescued following a 16-hour-long search operation.
3 students and a young couple from France had departed a trek through the 7 Virgin Hills last afternoon. The hikers had lost their way while returning from the peak. A search and rescue operation was launched by 2 army teams with the assistance of the police. The search operation commenced at 8:30 last night and the officials were able to reach the location of the missing hikers at 8:30 this morning. The rescue hikers reached the foot of the mountain at 12:45 this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
So we had to call the emergency, and thankfully all the soldiers here came and rescued us. So Stuti on behalf of France to the Sri Lankan armies.
Piliyandala police say that a person was shot during a clash between 2 groups of drug traffickers.
A person who was travelling in a car was shot by an unidentified group last night near the traffic light junction on the Piliyandala Maharagama road. The victim was a 33-year-old resident of Agulana, Moratuwa. Police believe that there is a connection between last night's shooting and the killing of Suresh Asanka Silva on the 23rd of June in front of the Vattala Magistrates Court while he was leaving the court premises following the hearing of a drug-related case. The police have received information that last night's victim was among the suspects in the murder of Suresh Asanka Silva. The police are conducting operations to apprehend suspects in both killings.
The Torch of Hope rally organised to muster support for the Sri Lankan contingent that will compete at the Olympic Games reached Jaffna today. An initiative of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited and Newsfirst, the Torch of Hope rally is also supported by the Ministry of Sports and the National Youth Services Council.
The vehicular parade carrying the Torch of Hope departed Mannar this morning following religious observances at St. Sebastian's Cathedral in Mannar. The rally, which saw the participation of numerous athletes and fans, was also graced by the Additional District Secretary of Mannar, Stanley Demel, and the Assistant Superintendent of Police in Mannar, Saman Jayasekara. The vehicular parade carrying the Torch of Hope reached Punareen later this morning. The parade was welcomed by residents of Punareen, including the officer in charge of the Punareen police station, Kapila Ratna Bandara. The Torch of Hope rally received a raucous welcome as it reached the Jaffna town, the end point of today's leg of its island-wide journey. The end of today's leg of the journey was marked at the Durayappa Stadium in Jaffna, parallel to the Northern Province Schools Games. Nethili Joyson of Arunodaya Vidyalaya in Jaffna, a national-level pole vaulter, and Anika Jagadiswaran from the Jaffna Public School participated in the ceremony. Tomorrow, on day 5 of the Torch of Hope rally, the vehicular parade will travel to Vavuniya.
The orchestra titled Young Musicians Concert, organised by the Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka, will be held next weekend. Newsfirst caught up with the orchestra during their rehearsals. The Young Musicians Concert will be held on the 23rd of July at the Ladies College Auditorium. The Symphony Orchestra of Sri Lanka is one of the oldest orchestras in South Asia. The concert will feature ever-famous tunes such as Overture to Rosamunde by F. Schubert, Piano Concerto No. 17 in G major by W.A. Mozart. The SOSL takes special interest in fostering young Sri Lankan talent. Eshan Denipiti will be the pianist for the event, while Dinushka Jayavikrama and Shehar Aliyanage will also be featured at the concert. Young Musicians Concert will be conducted by Ajit Abesekara. With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Have a great week ahead of you. Good night.